Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith, the annoying voice of podcasting, and you're listening to the non-annoying Three Guys in a Flick.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
What some folks call impossible is just stuff they haven't seen before.
Three guys and a flick with Don, Ken, and John. Dive into the movies well after the dawn. From the good to the bad to the wildly absurd. They give a fuck about films. Their voices are heard.
Welcome back. You are listening to Three Guys and a Flick. This is where we review the good, the bad, and the absurd. Tonight's episode, What Dreams May Come. Beware spoilers. Coming to you from inside a heavenly painting. Damn it, I got paint, or is this dog shit all over my shoe? My name is Don.
Well, I guess we've answered the question of whether a dog shits in heaven.
Well, yeah, I suppose we did. And to my right, we have the comic book guy, John.
How's it going?
And to my left, we don't have the professor because he has the night off. So to answer your question, bud, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm a little sad. This was a hard movie.
Oh, fuck. Is this the first time you've seen it?
No, I've seen this probably like a couple hundred times. I love this movie.
Yeah, I love this movie too, and it's easily like a 3 Kleenex box type movie.
Mm-hmm.
I swear to God, as soon as it opens, I start crying.
Mm-hmm.
Or I should put it this way. Every time it opens, my eyes just automatically well up, and I'm waiting for the beats that are coming that I know that just hit me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And every time I watch it, I keep thinking, how can you go on with everything that happens in this movie, like the characters?
Let me ask you this. Do you feel emotionally drained after watching this movie?
Oh, every time.
Every single time, right?
Every time.
I had a headache because I was crying so much. Fucking crazy. Tonight we are talking about what dreams may come. What dreams may come comes to us because John wanted to talk about this movie, and I didn't fight him on it because, well, I love this movie. So, John, besides just saying I love this movie, why do you love this movie?
Well, 3 words, basically.
Robin Williams dies?
Robin fucking Williams.
Oh.
I am such a huge fan of him. I actually wanted this movie a few months back for his birthday, kind of to celebrate, but we had so many different things going on, and I guess you were traveling, and then I was traveling, and we just never got around to it. But in my opinion, my personal opinion, this is probably his best acted role where we really got to see his acting chops in this movie, from just his facial expressions to his highs, to his lows, to his, indomitable spirit. It's just, you got to see so much of his just acting prowess in this movie. It's one of my, if I ever in the mood to really watch a Robin Williams movie, a lot of people say, go watch Aladdin, go watch, Good Will Hunting. This is my Robin Williams movie of choice.
Huh.
I also love the themes in it, kind of the whole idea of unconditional love, redemption, and like interconnectedness of how you can connect with someone even across the miles.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought the premise was fascinating when it came out. A guy dies, his wife commits suicide, he goes to heaven, she goes to hell, and he fucking goes to find her.
Yeah.
That's just, it's a beautiful story.
It's just the idea of, asking yourself, would you go through hell to find the person that you love?
Yeah. Released on October 2nd, 1998, What Dreams May Come was directed by Vincent Ward, screenplay by Ronald Bass, based on What Dreams May Come by Richard Matheson, music by Michael Kamen, and it stars Robin Williams, Cuba Gooding Jr., Annabella Scoria, Max von Sydow, and a bunch of other dead people.
How'd this movie do, Don?
This movie was made for $90 million and brought in only $75 million.
I was very surprised to discover this was what they consider a flop.
Yeah. I remember when it came out back in 98, and I remember wanting to see it, and sadly I didn't get to go to the theater and see it. I got to enjoy this experience at home where no one could see me cry. But yeah, I remember it not doing very well, and after watching it, maybe at the time I can see why, because it's pretty fucking emotional. It's pretty heavy, and I don't know if people were ready for that right away. But yeah, and it comes out against Saving Private Ryan, Shakespeare in Love,
A Bug's Life,
Armageddon. I mean, those are some big movies, and it's too bad because I think it's very underrated, and I think it gets a bad rap for being a flop when the movie itself is anything but. But yeah, that surprises me that it didn't do well.
Well, I remember I did see this in the theater, and I actually took a date to see this because it was marketed as a visually rich romantic tale. They didn't market it as everybody freaking dies and, the wife commits suicide and they lose their kids and all this stuff. They didn't market it as that. So I took it, and the whole time I was trying to look away and not show that I was just bawling during this movie.
Did you get lucky after that date?
Oh, heck yeah. You cry in front of a girl and you're going to get some.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah, you show those emotions.
Yeah. Well, fuck. This is the movie that will fucking pull it out of you for sure.
Yeah, pull it out. The other problems I think this movie had and why it didn't do so well is some people say that it's partly because the book version had a lot of more spiritualism in it. It was less on the kind of humor and stuff that Robin Williams brings to the movie and more onto this Richard Matheson's own research on the afterlife. So there was a lot more spirituality. Another issue was some people thought that obviously that it was too emotional, too much heartache, and that there was too much of heavy-handed moral messages.
I mean, I guess. So Richard Matheson's book was more spiritual, you say? I don't know how much more spiritual you can get than introducing God and heaven and hell. I mean, the rest of it is just kind of filler, I think. So clearly this movie has a very pronounced spiritual message, but I mean, they're not religion specific, which is nice. They just believe in God and heaven and afterlife and hell. And not everybody does, but you would think that there's some sort of form of it. But anyways, I thought they did a good job of balancing everything. And with Robin Williams' humor, I mean, it just makes it that much better for me.
I guess there was a big following of the book. And so that was one of the number one crowd that wanted to see this movie. And when they saw how much they cut out of the book or they changed from the book, word got around and a lot of those fans didn't come out to support the movie.
Ah, well, I just feel bad for them because they missed a hell of a movie.
Yeah, and if you're a Robin Williams fan, I feel like this is a movie you have to see.
Oh, I agree. But this does get, put in the shadows of a lot of his work. The Robin Williams has a film library that it's astonishing. And the amount of movies he was in and the amount of times he was memorable in those movies. I mean, there was no one like him, and there will probably never be anyone like him again. So
you got a favorite Robin Williams movie?
I was just, I'm perusing his IMDb list right now, and I'd have to say What Dreams May Come is probably my number one. But Jumanji, Mrs. Doubtfire, Dead Poet Society, Good Morning Vietnam. There's just so many to choose from. But when I think of Robin Williams, I think of What Dreams May Come.
I'm in the same boat. I think of this movie as my number one.
Yeah. Hey, did you ever see 1 Hour Photo?
Yes, I did. He had the blonde hair.
Yeah, he's fucking creepy in that.
He does good job as creepy. He's best obviously known for his comedies. I don't think he got enough opportunities to do drama. And I thought he just shined in this because of that.
I think when he does drama, because it was so few and far between, it's that much more special. Like his performance in Good Will Hunting will bring me to tears as well. I think I like this one better because it's more of him and it's about him. But Good Morning Vietnam, Awakenings, I mean, he was such a great dramatic actor as well that maybe he just didn't get recognized enough for it.
I was going to say I go back and forth between What Dreams May Come being my favorite and then kind of a challenger right behind that is Good Will Hunting. But the only reason why I don't put Good Will Hunting higher is because I don't think he wasn't really the star of that movie. And he didn't get enough in that movie.
He wasn't the star at all.
I know. And so he wasn't really the focus. And that's why I think if he was more of the focus in that movie, he had more bits in that movie, he could have challenged this movie for the number one spot.
The Birdcage. Do you ever see The Birdcage?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I have seen that movie.
I was going to say, that would surprise me if you didn't.
Yeah, with Nathan Lane.
Yeah.
The one I haven't seen or even heard of is a movie called The Butler.
Oh, yeah.
With, I guess, Cuba Gooding Jr. is in that with him.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that came out not too long ago.
The other one,
I say that, but.
Another one that I don't think I've seen all of, but he was in it with Annabella, was Cadillac Man.
Oh, I saw that years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that one.
I remember seeing Garp, but I didn't care for Garp that much.
Oh, I loved him in World According to Garp. I will say, though, one of my most memorable, even though I just said it was What Dreams May Come, but one of my most memorable when I think of Robin Williams is Popeye.
I was just about to say to our listeners is that since you have lifted my ban on musicals, somebody needs to submit Popeye to the helmet.
There you have it, listeners. Submit us some Popeye and we will get into it.
Let's talk about this director, Vincent Ward.
I have never heard of him. I thought I did, but I was mistaken.
He was a writer on one of your favorite movies.
I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite movies. I don't think it's as bad as most people do. I think it's very underrated. But yeah, he wrote Alien 3. Crazy, huh?
I like to think of that as the dream sequence movie. It was all a dream.
Oh, because they make it at the end. Are you on board with Ken?
Yeah, I'm on board. I agree with Ken on that one.
How did I not know that?
I don't know. Maybe I haven't spoken up, but it is probably on the bottom of all of my Alien movies, even below Alien versus Predator.
Whoa, buddy. That's fucking sacrilege right there. I don't know if we can keep doing this anymore. You fucking dick.
So you're going to do the rest of the show by yourself?
Yeah, I'll just do it all by myself. I'll play both parts. I'll be the comic book guy and the professor.
The screenplay, Ronald Bass. Do you know what we know him from?
What?
He was the screenwriter of Rain Man, Joy Luck Club, Waiting to Exhale, Dangerous Minds, How Stella Got Her Groove Back, and many other big movies. So he's got quite a history.
Yeah.
So the music, Michael Kamen. You know where he's from.
He is from a lot of things. Did he do Lethal Weapon?
He co-wrote the music for Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, him and Eric Clapton, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
What else do we know him from?
We also know him from doing the first 3 Die Hard movies.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
And one of Professor's movies that he loves, The Iron Giant.
Oh, he did The Iron Giant?
He did The Iron Giant.
Oh, yeah. For some reason, I get him mixed up with Michael Carmen. Michael Carmen has a song on the Dirty Dancing soundtrack. That's where my head goes. I think that this soundtrack is subtle in we talk about all the time how soundtracks embellish a movie, and we talk about the big names, John Williams and Hans Zimmer, this, that, and the other. I think that this soundtrack to this movie, I love this soundtrack, and I think it moves us along and keeps us in this film the entire time. The musical cues, when it happens, the emotional builds, the letdowns, all of it. I just think it's beautifully mastered.
Yeah, when it comes to music in this movie, in different movies, you have maybe the iconic movies that have the iconic music, Star Wars, things like that. This movie, like most other movies, I don't really pay attention to the music as much, but in this one, the music fits the scenes so well, especially like the one where he's running and he goes to fly off the cliff. It just, the music works with each of the scenes. It fits in.
Yeah, and I love the piano bits
Mm-hmm.
because it's just soft and it's the only thing you hear, and you can feel the emotion that's being shown to you, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Cuba Gooding Jr. What do you know him from?
Well, we know him for Show Me the Money.
Which is?
Jerry Maguire.
Okay, just making sure you were going to get that.
And we know him from a few other things, but what'd you think of him in this movie?
Oh, I thought he was great. I think that the way they introduce his character and who he's supposed to be in the beginning really fits, and the way he has to walk Robin Williams through the afterlife when he first gets there, just the whole portrayal is great. And then once you find out who he really is, I think just adds to it for me. So I think he did a fantastic job.
For me, I understood that he was playing, a Cuba type character, with the energy and the flow and things like that. But I didn't feel like he matched up to who he was supposed to be portraying. So sometimes he came off a little annoying to me because I couldn't see Chris's son being like that in heaven. Now, maybe he changed, maybe a different side of him came out, but in the parts where we got to actually see Chris's son, interacting with Robin, he was more reserved, he was more laid back, he kind of was somewhat, like I said, a reserved character. And here you've got Cuba Gooding Jr., who's so flamboyant and so excited and so bouncing off the walls in different scenes. I just didn't see it working.
Well, I just feel bad for you because I saw it, and especially after you watch it the first time and then you go back and watch it again, knowing who the character is.
Mm-hmm.
Every time they talk about reaching out to someone or who Robin Williams is thinking of, and he never mentions his son, Cuba, his face, his heart breaks.
Oh yeah,
and you can see it. And he is supposed to be that doctor, Albert.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think he's taking on those traits that he thought Albert might have. And then it's not until after going through hell bit where he finds out he's his son, then I think it all changes. But I guess my question would be, after he knows, how come he doesn't see his son? How come he still sees Cuba?
I thought same thing a little bit too. And I did see those scenes you talked about, the heartbreak on his face, because he even brings up at one point, you're not ready to see your children, or, you'll see your children when you're ready.
Right.
And you could see the heartbreak on his face that he's not even that ready. He's not ready. The first thing he should do is should be ready to see his children.
Right.
Or want to see them.
Right.
Instead, the first thing he wants to see is his dog.
I think pets naturally, I think in the afterlife, pets naturally go find their masters. No, I think I think pets have a homing device or a beacon.
Yeah.
So when you get there, they just know. So.
Well, my dog just turned 14, and if I get to wherever I'm supposed to go, I want to see my dog first.
Oh, Roxy will be there, dude.
Roxy's going to be there for me.
Yeah, but a young Roxy.
Mm-hmm.
Or a young, jumping around eating her own shit Roxy.
Yeah.
I wonder if she'll eat her own shit in heaven.
That'll probably be served to her on a platter.
Oh, maybe. The question is, are you going to heaven?
That's how I said, if I get to where I'm hopefully going.
Yeah, you and me both, buddy. You and me both.
Annabella, what'd you think of her?
I thought she was great. She is I know her from Jungle Fever, The Sopranos, and you mentioned Tulsa King.
She's in one of my new favorite TV shows,
Yeah,
Tulsa King.
Fucking Tulsa King rules. I thought she did a really good job. I remember way back when watching it for the first time thinking, I don't see how Robin Williams pulled her. I felt like she was much too attractive to be with someone like Robin Williams. And then I watched the movie, and then I went, oh, that's why.
I can tell you why. Girls go for the funny guys.
Yeah, well.
It's worked for me many times.
Yeah, well.
Surprisingly.
That's what I was going to say, but you beat me to it.
Yeah.
What did you think of her?
I thought she did a great job, especially delivering on the performance of a woman who's going through such tragedy, such grief. And when she displays it, during the painting scenes or writing in the diary, things like that, even just those scenes where she's like sitting in the church. This is one of the things that tears me up every time. She's sitting in the church and he's just kind of floating around her, trying to touch her. And you can see on her face, like she goes just through different emotions.
Oh, you're talking about the funeral.
The funeral I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And that, and at the cemetery, and just all of those. She almost wasn't in this movie. She actually turned it down at first. It was Robin Williams that convinced her during a read through to actually, she needed to do this movie.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he did. I think she did fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. She was great.
Because they were looking at Michelle Pfeiffer and Meryl Streep, as well as Annette Bening, to play that role. And I think she did this role justice.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. Although I would be lying if I said I wouldn't be curious to see what Meryl Streep would do with the role, because I'm a big Meryl Streep fan as well. But she did great. I bought it. I bought their chemistry. I bought the pain. I bought the joy. I bought all of it. It was great.
And we had Ming the Merciless in this movie.
Yeah, or the old guy from Star Wars.
Yeah, or the guy from The Exorcist that we just saw.
Oh, yeah, he's Father Marin.
Yeah.
Yeah, Max von Sydow.
I thought for the little bit that he was in this movie, he was, again, fantastic. He's always good.
He has such a screen presence where when he's on screen, you kind of pay attention, and it's that voice, and the role is the tracker, and then the reveal of his character. It was just a lot of fun.
For me, like in this movie, you know, it's a Robin Williams movie. It's a Robin Williams vehicle. And then you get Max von Sydow when they first get to that library and he has this whole discussion about the glasses and everything. It's almost like, okay, for just this instance, it's now a Max von Sydow movie. And as soon as he's done talking, Robin, you can have your movie back.
Yeah, a little bit.
So surprisingly, this movie was only nominated for 2 Academy Awards. Best Art Direction and Best Visual Effects.
It wins for visual effects, doesn't it?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And I was surprised because, again, you and I have both said this is probably one of our favorite Robin Williams roles. He wasn't even nominated for Best Actor.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes Hollywood gets it right and sometimes they don't. And I think in this instance, he gets overlooked, and which is really too bad. But ultimately, he doesn't get nominated. It's a travesty. And who wins? It's that
Roberto Benigni.
Oh, that's right. For Life is Beautiful.
Yeah, you ever seen that movie?
Yeah.
Is it good?
We just watched it. It's a Holocaust movie.
Oh, great. Wonderful.
I'm sure you'd love it.
Right up my alley.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was at the 71st Academy Awards. That's when I guess Shakespeare in Love kind of stole the show.
Yeah, I remember that year. I remember being pissed off that year too, because Spielberg wins Best Director for Saving Private Ryan, but yet Shakespeare in Love wins the Best Movie. So I don't know how the Best Director doesn't direct the Best Movie, but you know, what are you going to do? While vacationing in Switzerland, a pediatrician, Chris Nielsen, meets artist Annie Collins, and they marry, building a life with their 2 children, Ian and Marie. Their happiness is shattered when Ian and Marie die in a car crash, and 4 years later, Chris is killed in a separate accident. Unaware of his death, Chris lingers on Earth, struggling to interact with Annie, who is overcome with grief. Despite warnings that his presence will deepen her pain, his attempts to comfort her causes more sorrow, and he eventually moves on. Chris awakens in a heaven shaped by his imagination, resembling a painting by Annie of a place they had dreamed of growing old together. He is guided by Albert Lewis, his mentor from medical residency, and Leona, who he later realizes is his daughter Marie. Meanwhile, Annie, consumed by guilt over her family's death, takes her own life and is sent to hell, a torment born from her own pain and despair. So this movie opens up and we get a little narration by Robin Williams, and he says something like, I was on the ocean when I met the most beautiful woman, or something like that.
I love how this movie opens the same way it closes.
Oh, yeah. Did you know there's an alternate ending?
Yes, I have.
Have you watched it?
I've watched it where they are born, basically.
Literally born again?
Yeah, born again into like India or something like that.
Yeah, we'll get to that ending. Yeah. But it opens like it opens and closes the same way, which is a nice little touch. What caught me most about these scenes, these early scenes, is Robin Williams' hair.
Mm-hmm. Get some good hair back then.
I don't know if I would call that good, but I have to laugh every time I see it. And that's kind of like how does this Annie chick end up with this guy?
It's the humor, I'm telling you.
I do not believe you.
See, you always had the look and no humor, so you don't understand what humor can do.
Oh, you get the fuck out of here with that, because I'm the funniest guy I know. So they meet, and during the credits, this is all happening during the credits. They meet, they fall in love, they get married. We have kids. We're introduced to the kids. We have breakfast.
We're also introduced to the paintings, and we start to see a lot of the colors, especially like the purples and stuff, and the plants and the flowers. And you start to see that it's a very artsy feeling movie. Like there's a lot of art to this movie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Which makes sense because Annie's an artist. And I think that they use art as kind of a guide to help us through what's about to happen. And I think they do it very well. And we're still in the credits, and we see, we keep hearing Chris's narration about what's happening. And then we find out that you can kind of tell that Chris is kind of a strict dad, kind of, because he's talking to his son, and his son's talking about doing this, that, and the other. And he goes, "Oh, don't forget you have a math quiz." Right. So he's very studious. And
it's not even that. He's like, you're bringing home an A, right? You're gonna ace this test.
There's a lot of pressure there on the kid, and we get this in like a 2-second scene. And mom's keeping the peace, this and that, the other, but she works for an art gallery or whatever.
And you also get the feeling that the daughter is seeking attention and not getting it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so now it's time to go to school, and the nanny takes him to school, and we get this voiceover of, and that was the last time we saw them alive.
The thing that kills me, especially when I go back and I rewatch it, kind of mentions of, later on, Annie kind of takes the blame on herself because the daughter had asked her, Marie had asked her, "Can't you just drive us to school and pick us up?" And she's like, "No, I'm just too busy with my work."
Yeah.
And you hear that conversation and you know what's coming. And every time I watch that scene now, again, it emotionally breaks me up, is that, this is the last meal they're having with those kids.
Yeah. And so the first time I watched this movie, I know she dies. I know he's going to hell to get her. I had no clue, because this is pre-internet. I had no clue the kids died. And so talk about kicking your audience in the balls in the first 30 seconds of a movie. Okay, first couple of minutes, but we're still not even through the opening credits.
Yeah.
And now we're at a fucking funeral for these kids.
Well, the other big thing too, and this kind of harkens back a little bit to the movie that we did a little bit ago, which was Jojo Rabbit, is we didn't need to see it. We didn't need to see anything happen to these kids. We were just told, and even being just told and then going to the funeral scene, like you said, is a kick in the balls. It just hits you so hard. We didn't need to see the car accident. We didn't need to hear the tires screeching. We didn't need to do any of that to still be so emotionally impacted by this movie.
Yeah. And you see the two coffins at the funeral, and you're just like, fuck.
And when they zoom in and they go inside the coffins.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's just, again, heartbreaking. Just to think, I can't even imagine what it would be like to lose your kids like that.
Oh, no. Not at all.
In any way. My heart goes out to anybody who's ever lost their children.
Yeah.
But just both of them at the same time. And they probably lost a really good housekeeper.
Wow.
Well, I feel for her too. I mean,
wow.
Nobody, feels bad for the poor housekeeper.
Out of all of the people that die in this film, you're going to cry over the housekeeper?
Yeah, we don't even get to see her in heaven. Are they saying she went to hell?
I don't know. That's a good point. We don't get to see the housekeeper.
I expected her to be keeping, Chris and Annie's house, their dream house.
Yeah, well, it's kind of damp in there.
Yeah.
But anyways, so now we get a title card that says 4 years later, and we kind of see them picking up the pieces. Annie has a new haircut. Chris is a doctor. He's coming in, and he's about to see his next patient.
Did you get the vibe that I get every time I watch that Robin Williams' portrayal in this as the doctor is he's trying to put up a front that he's still happy and he's good with working the kids, everything, but there's a sense of sadness inside of him.
Oh, and you know where it shows? It shows in his eyes.
Yeah.
And when the little girl draws on the painting and he's all, oh, my kid used to say,
you weren't watching anyway.
Right. I mean, it just breaks you up.
Mm-hmm.
And so he sees this little girl, and we get the bit of him being a doctor, and he plays a doctor so well. This Patch Adams, anything, Robin Williams, right? And, he tells her to cup her, put her hand over her nose because he's diagnosing a migraine.
Yeah, and breathe heavy.
And then he gets a phone call, and his wife's having a meltdown. And I mean, just as parents, right? I mean, that's got to be 4 years clearly isn't time to get over anything.
I think statistic wise, most couples, when they lose their child, unless there's something really bonding them, don't end up together. They usually end up going their separate ways because it breaks them apart.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So we're not there yet. They still have a pretty good bond, and she says she needs some stuff, and he's like, okay, I'll take care of it.
Well, he volunteers. She doesn't even ask him. She just said, she's losing it because she lost these 7 paintings.
Right, but he feels like he has to take care of her. I'm sorry. He wants to take care of her, and he wants to make sure that she's okay, so he problem solves for her. Mm-hmm. Right. I understand that she never asked him to do it, and he does it out of the goodness of his heart, just like any good husband should do. Yeah. Right. That's just bad timing.
Yeah. And it's on their what's called double D.
Yeah. Which, we'll get to
we learn later what the double D is.
Right.
But, he's doing this as a favor for her, which makes it more tragic when he ends up losing his life. And she now realizes if she didn't have to work and didn't, basically said, fuck this, and I'm just going to go out on my double D with him, he would have still been alive. He wouldn't have been picking up those paintings.
Yeah. And that's kind of the problem with life, right? You can always say, what if? And there's that movie Sliding Doors. Did you ever see that with Gwyneth Paltrow?
I don't think
it's kind of like you have a decision. You can go one way or another way. And this movie it shows you what happens when you go both ways. Anyways,
both ways.
So, yeah. So Robin Williams gets in his car. He's going to go take the paintings
in a horrible rainy night.
Yeah, of course it is. And he gets in, he sees an accident. He gets out because he's a doctor, and his Hippocratic oath tells him he has to go help these people.
In a lot of these movies, you would probably say, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, should have stayed in the car. What the fuck was he doing? But it's believable. He is a pediatrician. He's a doctor. Of course he wants to get out and go help people.
That's what I just said. Yeah. But why? So he gets out, and I was thinking about it, and the accident already happened, and some dumb shit down the road must have not been paying attention.
There
because
was 2 or 3 cars that came by him.
Yeah. And there's a one car that flew, and you see it in the air, and then the light goes really bright, and we know, well, he did because,
horrible
he dies.
Way to go.
Oh, I know. And I thought that this bit where he's transitioning over, where they show him in the hospital bed and you hear his voice, and then you hear Cuba Gooding Jr.'s voice, I thought the filmmakers did a really, really good job of telling us or showing us what it could be like.
Yeah, and I'm glad they didn't stretch it out. I'm glad the pace that it was at is that, we got to see him in the hospital bed with the beeping noise, and then it going solid, and Cuba starts talking to him like you were saying. Those little bits and pieces of running us through the whole thing fast, I thought worked out really well.
Yeah, and the whole, he couldn't see Cuba because he was out of focus. It's because he didn't want to accept that he was dead.
He wasn't ready.
And they did a really good job at explaining that. And, how come I can see all these other people? And Cuba's just like, you'll see when you're ready, bud. You just have to know that you're dead. And the dialogue they have going back and forth, I really appreciated. And it kind of just goes throughout the whole film, but he's explaining, I'm dead. I can, Cuba's like, you have a body and it rots, and your brain's part of your body. So why would you think that any of this is, what's real to you?
Yeah, you're more than just meat.
Exactly.
One thing that I love the idea of, and we find out later that Albert is really his son, Ian.
Whoa, fucking spoiler alert.
Well, you said spoilers in the beginning.
Oh, that's right, I did.
But I love the idea that it's his son who came and got him.
Oh, dude, don't even start me with that shit, because oh my God, that just solidified the movie for me. Mm-hmm. And it was at that, and I didn't see that coming. I can't believe we're talking about this now, fucker. I didn't see it coming the first time I saw this movie, and when I saw it, fucking blew me away.
I didn't.
And which is funny because you see the daughter first, so you should see it coming, but I didn't.
I figured it out because of the daughter, and then I started looking for hints. When you go back now and watch, there are so many hints that it's his son, Ian, throughout this whole thing.
Oh, yeah. So Chris is having a little trouble transitioning over.
Well, he doesn't want to leave Annie.
No, because he's worried about, he's worried about her because they just lost their 2 kids.
And I love how Richard Matheson kind of wrote the idea of the longer we linger, the harder it is on the ones we love because they can't let go either. They're stuck feeling your presence.
Oh, I thought that was beautifully shown. And it makes complete sense.
Yes, because why would anybody ever want to move on? Why would they ever want to leave the one they love? Well, they have to because they're hurting them. They can't move on. When they do that scene in the cemetery where she's at Chris's grave and he goes to kind of touch her, she starts screaming and then he leaves. And then all of a sudden you can see this look on her face of she's finally letting go, like she's okay.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I wouldn't say okay.
I wouldn't
but,
say she's not feeling that same trauma.
Right, and that's a very powerful scene because it breaks his heart too. Because he has to accept it as well.
Because he originally says, "I won't leave her."
Right, and he says, and he even tells her, he says, "Don't worry, babe, I'm not going anywhere." And then she starts screaming, and he's like, "Okay, I gotta go." And no, I thought it was very well portrayed.
What do you think of the scene where he kind of makes her right that he still exists?
Power of love, man.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was interesting. I thought it was well played, very emotional. So
you're starting at that point to really see the fact that they bring up later again that these two are soulmates, that they can, reach beyond the bounds of heaven and earth to still connect to each other.
Yeah, and they're definitely playing that up because that's the central theme of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so he wakes up in heaven. And he kind of notices everything is acrylic and painty. And what'd you think of his world before he meets Albert?
I loved the fact that it felt like we were in a painting.
So much so, right?
And I love he just falls down. It's all goopy and everything, and it's all over the place. I was a little surprised that, throughout the movie, but again, it's how he visualizes himself. There wasn't more paint all over him.
Yeah.
Like his hands kept getting clean and his jacket kept getting mostly clean.
Well, he's in heaven, dude.
But again, as Albert puts it, you are who you see yourself as. And I kept trying to, this time, especially through, a lot of other people visualize themselves as somebody else, like Ian does and Marie does and Albert does. But Robin Williams is okay with himself, so he sees himself as himself.
They see themselves as other people for Robin Williams. They don't do it for themselves. His son chose Albert because he was the only guy that Chris would listen to.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then she chose the stewardess because, she tells them, but they do that as not to, I don't know, to kind of ease him into everything.
I don't know, because Max von Sydow says, I didn't want to be a 63-year-old old black guy or something. He says, I didn't want to.
Whoa, he didn't say that,
he said
buddy.
along the lines, he just, this is the body, this is the look he chose for himself.
Yeah. At that
not
point.
Not for Robin Williams, not for Chris. He chose it for himself.
Well, the kid chose it for Robin Williams.
I thought, in my opinion, Marie chose it because that was her, in her mind, who her father thought was beautiful. That's who she thought was beautiful. And she wanted to be what her father, wanted to be. And Chris wanted to be somebody her father respected. So he chose to look like someone's father respected. But you're also right. He also did it so that Chris would listen to him.
Right. And so he wakes up and Katie comes to see him, the dog, and he kind of figures out he's in heaven or dog heaven.
There's so many great lines in this movie, but one of them hits you right here real quick, which is, oh shit, I've gone to dog heaven.
Yeah.
Or I'm in the wrong heaven.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he starts to see Cuba Gooding Jr. He starts to come into focus, and we kind of get an explanation of where we're at and what kind of the rules are, per se. And
well, we get a little bit of foreshadowing earlier on when we're looking at one of the paintings, and it's explained that this is what this is what Annie saw as heaven, and this is where they were going to retire someday. And Chris was painted into that painting, by that tree. And all of a sudden, we're now getting to see Chris inside that painting, that specific painting, by that same tree.
Yeah. So Cuba's explaining the rules, and he's still kind of having a hard time accepting that he's dead.
Mm-hmm. He's kind of sinking in the paint a little bit. And then they go inside, and Cuba says,
you'll see your kids when you want to see them. You can make that bird fly when you want it to move. You can do whatever you want when you're ready.
It's like walking through that water when he sinks in the water and he's like, you think that's real water you're feeling? You think you're still really breathing?
Yeah.
You know, it's all in your mind. You are your mind. You are your consciousness. I think really what they're trying to say is he is his soul.
Yeah. Yeah. And, slowly he comes around, and then they do this bit where Cuba's like, okay, let me show you. And he, makes a window in the wall and he pushes out, and now everything's live action.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's real now.
Yeah, the painting has become real.
Right. I love that scenario, or I love that scenery with the tree and the house, and it looked like a place in Italy or something. But
yeah, exactly what I felt.
It was beautiful. And I thought that, the filmmakers did a really good job of bringing that to life.
Mm-hmm. During all this time, we're getting flashbacks back to Annie, and I don't remember exactly when the first time we saw it. It might have been early on the film, but did you catch the scar on her arm the first time they showed it?
Yeah.
And just right there, some shit has gone down, and that probably took place right after, the kids died. And we're told through different things that at some point she ended up in an asylum.
Yeah, and this movie tells the story in flashbacks, flash forwards. I mean, we bounce around all over the place, and it's easy to get confused. But I like the way that they did it, and I like that we get the aftermath of when the kids die, and then we get the aftermath of when Christy dies, and then we're back in heaven, and then we get a flashback of Robin Williams with each of his kids. And this movie does jump a lot, but I don't think it's too confusing or out of sorts. I think it actually makes the movie flow very well.
Well, there's a sub story going on throughout all of these flash forwards, flashbacks, heaven, everything that keeps coming up, the D-Day or the double D. And we're led to, try to figure out what is this double D that they're leading us towards the end to find out what the double D was. So I like that they connected all of it together with that.
His daughter, we get her flashbacks. When you start thinking about his son, we get his flashbacks, and it's very well timed.
Mm-hmm. So what did you think of the scene where Albert has to go off to work? And I love how Robin puts it. I like that you still have something to do, that you have work.
Yeah.
And we're introduced to Leona, who looks like an airline stewardess, and she's going to be spending the day with him to help him adjust, and takes him to, other people's heavens.
Oh, this moment is one of the key moments that just absolutely crushes me in a happy yet completely sad way.
Mm-hmm. There was a huge clue in this of who she really was. And did you catch it? I'm sure you did.
Which one? That her heaven matched the mural in her room?
The mural in the room, I think, was the big one, because we don't know at first. They're going through doing all these things, and they're going down the stairs, and they're seeing all the people. And then they do a flashback of Marie drawing a little mustache on someone's face, and they pan out a little bit, and you see that is the same stairs.
Yeah.
And Marie even asks, is this what heaven
heaven
looks like?
Yeah.
And so immediately, that's her heaven. She's got to be there.
Yeah, but I will admit, when I first saw this movie's twists, every single one of them got me. Mm-hmm. I remember the first time I saw this, and they're talking, and we get more and more flashbacks of Chris and Marie, and how he's going to teach her to play chess, and that's going to be their thing. And he keeps thinking, and
I did think that, when he spotted her, I thought she was going to be in the crowd somewhere. I didn't, until they did the whole reveal thing, I didn't realize she was Marie.
Yeah, neither did I. Not at all. And even going back and watching this last night, when she first comes up and, Albert has to work, I'm going to hang out with you. Katie comes up and she goes, oh yeah, Katie's an old friend. Well, no shit, that was their dog, right? But the bit that gets me is when he figures it out, and he looks at her and he says, have you played chess lately?
Do you still play chess?
And she says, no, I've been waiting for my partner. Oh, fuck. That gets you. That's one. There's 3 times in this movie that just...
Where you start pulling the Kleenex out?
And that's one. That reveal, it got me, and I can't watch this movie and not have a dry eye leading up to that, and even after it.
The one that gets me besides that line is the way they did the transition. And yes, it's back in the 90s when they didn't have a lot of the, the things they have today, but the way they had the plant go by her face and all of a sudden it's now Marie.
Oh,
and you see her in the boat smiling back up at him.
oh, so good. So good. And, at this point, I would have thought that I should have put 2 and 2 together and said, oh, Cuba Gooding Jr. is your son. But no, I'm not. I'm still emotionally wrecked after this, right?
Well, I don't know if originally I figured out that, Albert was really Ian, but I knew Ian had to be there somewhere. And so I think at first I thought the tracker was Ian.
Oh,
when we were introduced to the tracker, I thought, oh, Albert is Albert, but the tracker is Ian.
I could see that.
So we get some flashbacks now, or we get some, not flashbacks, but we get to see more of Annie in, these scenes, and we're seeing what she's going through. And I think this is where she starts writing in her diary because her stupid shrink told her to do it.
Right. And she says that her shrink thinks that he was the one that pulled her through, but in reality, it was Robin Williams.
It was Chris. It was always Chris.
And she just gets more and more depressed. And she says things like, your whole family's killed in car crashes. It's enough to make someone buy a bike. And she just had enough.
And there is another emotionally powerful scene. This one got me. I didn't know if it got you, is where she goes back to painting. And she's painting like that. I think they call it a triplicate or something like that, where they do 3 paintings that kind of go together.
3 panels.
Yeah. And so she's painting that tree, and Robin is seeing the tree. And you can see in Albert's face that he's shocked that he can see something that Annie is painting, that it's appearing in his heaven when he never saw it before. And then Annie loses it and destroys that tree. And Robin's expression as he watches and feels her pain.
And he screams out, I love you. It's just, oh.
Did that one get you?
Yes, dude. I'm telling you, the whole fucking movie. And I love how, they see the tree in heaven and he's like, well, explain this to me, Chief. How is this happening? And immediately, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character is like, soulmates. It's rare, but it does happen. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, fuck yeah, it happens. Right. So good.
Well, I love how too that they paint the idea of depression and sadness as that tree is dying as being cold. Because did you notice that Robin started shivering and kind of holding himself like he was freezing as that tree died?
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's had enough. She can't do it anymore.
I didn't catch it until this time around.
Oh, lay it on me.
The reveal of how she kills herself.
Yeah, it was all that blue stuff in her pudding.
She poisoned herself.
Yeah, I got that from day one.
What you see in one scene, I don't remember if it was in the bathroom or what, but she had the bowl of pudding and a bunch of pills. And then when she's writing that final entry in her journal, she's got the same bowl, but it has blue, as you said, blue powder all over the top of it with a big spoon.
Oh, well, the blue, you don't see it when she's on the bed. You see it when she's crushing them up.
It's also on the bed. I looked this time.
I saw the bowl on the bed, but you don't see the blue things in the bed.
Oh, I thought you could see it, but
there's this shot before. But no, you're right. I mean, we're saying the same thing. Yeah. It's poison. Yeah, no, I got that right away.
Yeah, I was wondering if she had tried to slash her wrists or what. They never really said. Again, we don't need to know.
No, we don't need to know at all. And that's the beauty of this movie. This movie is very subtle and powerful at the same time.
But I appreciate that the writers, directors thought about that, and they thought about putting little things in the movie that kind of do tell the story by itself. We see like those pills and everything, and if you look at those little things to the side, it makes sense what happened.
Well, yeah. Well, if they're doing their job right, I should fucking hope so.
I kept thinking throughout this movie of, when she lost her children, you're devastated, you're broken. And then 4 years later to lose your husband in a similar way, when he's the only thing that brought you back. I was surprised she made it as long as she did. I would have broken.
Yeah, well, we really don't know how long she made it.
Yeah, I mean,
it might have been a month.
Yeah, I mean,
so
that would have destroyed me.
Yeah. So next day, Robin Williams, Christy wakes up, and Albert's there with him again, and it's darker now, and it's not as bright and sunny. And, Christy's like, hey, I saw my daughter. And Albert's like, yeah, good for you.
We got a tough thing to talk about.
But just know that I'm right here, right now. And he's dead. And Christy starts to rationalize, Right.
Well, first-
she won't hang on as long as I did. She'll come right away.
And at least her suffering is done.
Right. And he was, accepting it. And then he gets this big smile on his face. He's like, when can I see her? And Albert's like, no, dude, you're not going to see her.
Never. You don't get to see her.
And I like this bit of dialogue because it questions a lot of things. Albert says there's no judgment in it. Suicides just go to a different place. And he's like, fuck off, dude. You're calling it hell. Why is she being punished? And he tries to explain it around and around. And Christy's like, so you kill yourself and you get sentenced to hell or whatever. And there's no judgment in that. Right. And I get it. And I just thought he was questioning everything up there, and he was only left with one choice.
The thing that I thought was interesting, the difference between the book and the movie is in the book, there are punishments for suicide. There is a punishment. We'll talk about it later. But in the movie, it's not that she was being punished by anybody or by God or heaven or whatever. She was punishing herself. He was trying to explain to him that hell is just like Christy created his own heaven because he was ready to move on to heaven, that this is what he envisioned for himself. She was envisioning what she felt she deserved. She was too deep in her own depression that it created her own version of hell. And that's what she was trapped in because she couldn't see her way out of it.
Yeah, well.
And so that's what he's trying. She didn't get punished. She's punishing herself.
Well, she's getting punished.
She created her own, depressing reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a way, that was unfortunately like her version of heaven, but was really hell.
Wow, that's one way of looking at it.
Yeah.
And Christy's like, no, that's bullshit, dude. I'm going to go find her. And Albert's like, you can't go find her. That's never been done before. And I like Robin Williams' response. You ain't seen nothing yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so
you were pretty damn well surprised by that tree.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. How do you explain that one, Chief? And so Cuba's like, all right, well, shit.
I know a tracker.
Determined to save her, Chris defies warnings that rescuing someone from hell is impossible. With the help of a tracker, he descends into hell, realizing along the way that Albert is actually Ian. Chris eventually finds Annie trapped in a nightmarish version of their home, forgetful and tormented. Despite failing to stir her memories, Chris refuses to abandon her and chooses to stay in hell with her. His selfless declaration mirrors words he spoke to her after their children's death, triggering her memories and breaking her torment. Annie ascends to heaven, bringing Chris with her. Reunited with their children, the family is restored in heaven. Chris proposes reincarnation, wishing to experience life with Annie again. They meet once more as children in a scene reminiscent of their first encounter, beginning their love story anew. Roll credits. So we're on our way to hell.
I mean, this is really where I feel like the movie takes a huge turn, because before it was all kind of going downhill with Annie's tragic story, the loss of Chris, the loss of the kids, and here is Chris alone in heaven without her, missing her. Now we've got this point in the movie where he's now got a mission. He is going to go get her and bring her to heaven.
Yeah. So they go and they find a tracker, and it's Max von Sydow. And he tells them, look, we can go look for her. We could even probably find her. But when you get there, you're just going to have to say everything you think you need to say, and then we're going to leave because there is no bringing her back.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go crazy, and you're going to lose your mind and be stuck down there forever.
Just get me there.
Yep. And that's all Robin Williams says. He says, just get me there. I'll decide what's enough, motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, okay, let's go.
There is so much symbolism throughout this entire movie. We couldn't even, in 3 hours, we couldn't dig through all of the symbolism. All the times he falls into the water, that he feels the emotional weight, the different people flying in heaven and hell, and all of, going the journey to hell. It's just so much symbolism.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I like the way that they portray it, and I like the way that visually they make it threatening and ominous, and you're kind of fearing for our characters, but then again, they're already dead.
Well, I love how they put it is that you don't have to be scared of death in heaven. You're already dead. What you do have to be scared of is losing your mind.
Right. And that's a good point. And I like how they focus on that, because they go through some rough waves or whatever, this, that, and the other.
The creepy hands coming up and everybody grabbing at the boat and overturning them.
That's right. And then Max von Sydow kind of looks at Chris and says, what, you were expecting physical danger? You're dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they're on the trail and they land at this shipyard.
Did you notice how we start, this as they are going along, we're now getting Ian flashbacks.
Uh-huh.
And he's thinking less of Annie. And I don't think I caught it the first time, but less of Annie, more of Ian. And that's causing the tracker problems of finding Annie, because he has to be focused on thoughts of Annie for him to be able to reach out and find her.
Yeah. Yeah. And they get to the shipyard and the tracker's like, do you still got a lock on Annie? And he says, no, I've been thinking of someone else. And when he says that, if they cut to Cuba and his eyes get wide, like, yes, finally he's thinking of me.
There was another huge hint here, and again, didn't catch it until this viewing of Ian is here. Ian is with them at this point. Again, I was still debating whether it was the tracker or Cuba, but did you get that there was something about hell that represented Ian? Kind of Ian's thoughts.
The battleships.
The battleships, because earlier on when we first meet Ian, he is building a battleship model.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that kind of, goes to that ship. And then they get to the big one. And did you catch the mythology reference?
Of?
Cerberus?
No.
Cerberus in Greek mythology is the three-headed dog that guards the gates of hell.
I didn't see a three-headed dog.
You didn't, but that was the name of the battleship.
Oh, was it?
It was on the side of the ship.
Oh, okay.
I think they even reference it. I'm a huge Greek mythology nerd. I love everything about even most mythologies, Norse, Greek, all of them. And just the fact that they had kind of even worked that little thing in was great to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And so they're getting closer to going into the gates of hell. And this is the second bit that gets me. The first one was with
Marie.
Yeah, do you still play chess? And this one is as they're getting ready to go in and they're getting ready to fight, they flash back and Robin Williams says to his son, even if I was going through fucking hell, there's only one person I'd want by my goddamn side.
Yeah.
And it was at that moment, I remember this, it was at that moment, for the first time I watched it, it was one of those moments, and it just fucking ripped me apart again.
When he delivers that next line, that gets me. When he says, "Your mom's not in there, Ian."
Yeah, and then he stops, and he turns around, and
and this, to Cuba's credit, is probably his best nonverbal scene, because just the look on his face when he realizes Dad sees me.
Yeah, yeah, and if he had to go through hell, he'd want his son to go with him. That's just, it's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, the tracker's like, oh, good. Yeah. You made up with your son, blah, blah, blah. We got to get back with your mom.
I'm wondering why at this point, like Marie, maybe it's because, he's still keeping up his defenses, but we didn't see Ian for Ian when he basically started saying, we can go get her, don't give up. We'll go through there and we'll fight for her.
Well, you got Cuba Gooding Jr., Academy Award winner, or this kid who's never been in anything. Who are you going to give more screen time to?
They could have just gone back and
Who are you going to give more screen time to?
Cuba.
Okay, well, there you go. You just answered your own question.
Yeah.
And so
Cuba has to leave.
He's like, come on, I want to go, and don't listen to him. We find mom together, blah, blah, blah. And
he says something interesting here that I don't know if I picked up on right away, which is, don't listen to the tracker.
Tell mom what you told her when we died.
Which means he was there and he was watching over them. Probably both Marie and Ian were watching because they heard what the dad had said at the asylum.
Oh yeah, probably.
And so it kind of gives you a feeling of maybe, if maybe maybe our loved ones are always still with us.
Yeah, maybe. I thought the first time watching this, well, at this point I had know what to think of watching it the first time, but watching it ever since then, when he says that, I'm like, oh yeah, that's the shit, right? And so they go looking for mom.
Well, this is now, Chris now realizes he's got to start thinking about Annie again. And with Cuba leaving, he can now focus more on Annie, and they start focusing more in on that time at the institute, at the asylum.
And so Annie is institutionalized. She can't get over the death of her kids, and Chris can't seem to reach her in a way. So he goes to visit her. I like how he says, you said divorce. You
Got
have
my attention.
And so they start having that conversation. And as he's getting closer to finding her, we keep getting a little bit more and more of that story. We don't get it all yet because he hasn't found her, but it's alluding to, or it's telling us what happened in between.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned it early. We don't even need these flashbacks to be in order to know when they happened.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that this is right after the children died.
Right.
And we know, like she even says, she's taking up smoking because why not?
Yeah, she's teaching herself how to smoke. I thought that was such a clever way of putting that. And you know what else is a dead giveaway? Her hair.
Mm-hmm.
She has a different hairstyle on every bit of when she's alive.
You also see the bandages on her wrist.
Yeah.
So you know that she just tried to kill herself.
Right. And she went the right way because the scars go up and not sideways.
Ugh.
I know. Fucking crazy. And so we cut back to hell, and they're walking along.
Well, they go up the elevator and they start walking over the faces.
Do you get the joke? Elevator to hell going up
Instead
as
going
opposed to
down.
down.
The interesting thing, and again, it's taken me forever to try to understand it, but there's one face of that old guy that he steps on and he says, son.
Papa?
Did you know that is an actual famous director?
Yeah, well, I just read that and I couldn't tell you who it was.
He made a lot of just older movies, but he had appeared in a few movies, and I guess he just decided he wanted to appear in this one. I didn't get the whole connection of "you're not my father" and then walks away. I didn't understand. Was he the father or was he not his father?
No, I think it was just them going crazy in hell.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it was his dad.
Because maybe it was a little, kind of a hint of what was coming with, you can get caught in other people's delusions, and maybe he was starting to get caught in this old man's delusion.
No, maybe, but it was kind of a weird scene, but it sets us up because he looks up and he sees Annie's face, and she said to him once, sometimes I feel like I'm just a face in the crowd, and voila, there she is. And so he goes, he dives, and then they end up at her place.
Well, he falls through that hole, and it felt very Alice in Wonderland as he's falling.
Oh, yeah.
But did you notice in the background all the other bodies that were falling?
Uh-huh.
And then they just kind of disintegrate as they fall?
Yeah. Yeah, that was... Visually, it was pretty good.
And then, of course, the tractor just walks up and says, hey, you got us here.
Yeah, because, in heaven or hell, you just blink and you get to where you're going.
Yeah, you just think about it, and there you are.
That's right. And so he's about to go in.
Tracker gives him the rules.
And he says, again, you're just going to go in there and say what you got to say.
Yeah, this was always for you.
Yep, you got 3 minutes tops before you lose your mind. And I'm thinking, well, fuck, he's got his work cut out for him, doesn't he? And so he goes in. What did you think about this whole bit with him and her and this final effort?
It never made sense to me what he was trying to do, pretending to be the neighbor, until you really get the final part of the asylum and of explaining what the double D was, in that he goes in and he tries to draw her into his reality of trying to bring her back of, you're a good person, come be with me, blah, blah, blah. And I'm your neighbor, and let's think about your husband and your marriage and all that. And he's trying to draw her out, which is not what she needs. She explains it later on in the flashback. he was always trying to be the strong one because he felt like he had to, when she was always so, I guess, I don't know, so emotionally drained that why didn't he join her? Why didn't he fall apart like her? And that's what she needed, was for him to join her, not for her to join him.
Yeah.
And so that's why I didn't realize why he was failing so bad.
Well, yeah, and you don't until you decide. So he tries everything, but what he doesn't do is he doesn't try to join her, but he does. And we get told that in the flashback because it was divorce and decision day. That was the double D.
Yeah.
And he says, here's an airline ticket. I'm taking off. I failed you.
Well, he reveals kind of almost the same thing of when he was going through that whole death period and lingering, and then basically decided to leave, because the more he lingered, the more he was hurting her. And he says the same thing almost at the asylum. Me being around you and me being here is just hurting you more. So I'm leaving so I don't hurt you anymore.
Yeah. And then, they also say, she asks him, why aren't you in here?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I going crazy and you're not going crazy? And he said he thought he had to be strong. But it's not until that where he kind of figures it out. And so he talks to her and tries to get through to her, but nothing's working. And then they have this moment where they're talking about her wedding, and it's old Annie or young Annie and young Chris, and they're getting married.
And he has the hair again.
Oh my God, that hair. And he says, the guy in the courtyard, that's me. I'm here. And then she starts to freak out, and why are you here? Blah, blah, blah. And so he leaves. And,
does he give that speech at this point where he says, I'm most sorry for is every time I failed you, especially this time. And then he leaves, and you think he's leaving for good. You don't think he's coming back.
Right. And so
I didn't suspect it at all. Did you think he was giving up and coming back?
Oh, I had no clue.
Okay.
I mean, the first time I saw this movie, I had no idea what was going to happen. And this is that third moment that I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. When he walks out to the tracker and he says, "You were right, dude. There was no reaching her.
Yeah, I'm giving up.
I'm giving up." And he says, "But not like you think." And that's just, he goes, "Tell my kids I love them, but I would not abandon their mother."
When he first walked out, I kept thinking, they can't end the movie like that. They can't just leave her in heaven and him just walk out. When he comes out and he says, "Tell my kids I love them," my first thought was, I would do the same damn thing. If you really loved her, if you really love someone, you would choose hell over heaven.
Yeah.
And the fact that just that love story, that a man would do that, and that they displayed it and showed it so well. Again, another reason why I just love this movie so much.
Yeah. And so he goes back in and he says, I'm not going to know you in a few minutes, and you're not going to know me, but you're pretty great because a guy would pick you over heaven. And that kind of triggers it. And she remembers that he didn't join her, but now he was trying to join her in the asylum.
From what I've tried to do some research on this and tried to understand the symbolisms and the meanings, is that when he was trying to get her to join his reality, she couldn't see them because they were actually in two different realities. They were seeing two different things. When he joined her, that's when she finally could see him for who he was. And when she finally saw him, that was really Chris, it helped her get out of this and to basically change her mindset and to be able to reach heaven.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so she starts to remember, is it too late? It might be too late. Did he lose his mind? We go back and forth, back and forth.
Did you notice that color change too? All of a sudden, you could see right as the point where he joined her in the depression, his face got darker. Everything went really gray.
Yeah.
And I thought he did such a good job of portraying, her same feelings, her same emotions.
Yeah. No, I saw it. I bought it. And it worked because he wakes up in heaven and she's there.
The first thought when he wakes up in heaven and he comes out and he's all alone, I thought he was just going to go, fuck, I got to do this all over again.
It's like Groundhog's Day.
Yeah.
You got to keep repeating it.
I was down there with her. I got pulled the fuck out.
Yeah. Yeah. They're in heaven together.
She comes out in the blue dress and comes down, and I just love their interaction, their meeting again.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we see the tracker, and he says, "Are you ready for that surprise?" And this is another moment. She gets to see her kids for the first time again.
Kind of a kick in the balls.
It depends on how you look at it.
The way I look at it is he, first thing he saw was the dog, and then it took some time before he sees the kids. She's just getting to heaven. Immediately it's about the kids. I mean, that should send a message to the kids who love them best.
Well, maybe. But hey, their dad went to go fucking get her. If it wasn't for their dad,
They brought mom back.
that's right, she'd still be in fucking hell. So whatever. But yeah, they're reunited. And this is the only bit that really prevents this movie from getting a 5 for me. Why go back?
There is an explanation that they took out of the book version that should, I think, be in the movie, which is there was a rule that if you commit suicide, you must be reincarnated. That was in the book version.
Oh, well, that's
So
dumb too. I don't like that either.
In the book version, she had to go back, and Chris said, "You're not going without me." And so that's why they both get reincarnated.
Oh, see, I don't like that either.
But I actually like the idea that they chose to be reincarnated because they had originally had such a tragic, horrible story of all this grief. They want to go back and have their happy ending now. They want to go back and try to have a happy life.
They're in heaven with their kids. What's more happy than that?
Yeah, but they lost kids. Maybe they can go and have more kids, or have a life where they actually grow old together. And in fact, in the book, it kind of reveals what happens to them, which is not even a great happy story. But do you want to know what happens to them in the book?
No, not really.
Well, they do find each other. They do end up getting married again. She dies like 20 or 30 years later of a virus, and he lives to like 80.
Yeah, awesome.
But he knows that ahead of time, even before he gets reincarnated.
Yeah, well, see, that's
and
just
still
dumb.
chooses to go be
Yeah,
with her.
I don't like the reincarnated bit.
Yeah.
But other than that, great fucking flick.
And we talked about the alternate ending of they both end up, in this version, they both end up as kids meeting with toy boats, which I thought was a whole cute scene with the pot, or with the
Because
the
when they
sandwiches and everything.
when they originally met, they were in real boats.
Yeah,
And now they have toy boats.
And she brought him a sandwich in the beginning
Yep.
for the picnic. This time, the little girl gives him the sandwich. They take bites out of whatever.
Yeah.
In the alternate version, they're both born in like India, and they show the two babies, I think, being put side by side into little baby bins.
Oh, I thought one was
Fascinating.
born in the United States and the other one was born in India.
Oh no, I thought they both. Maybe you're
I thought
right.
I thought the hospitals looked different, but it's been a minute since
Maybe
I
that's
saw it.
correct. I don't
But,
know. But they supposedly, it still hints that they find each other.
Yeah. Well, duh. I mean, it wouldn't have been a very happy ending if they don't find each other.
I thought the ending they chose to go with, matching the beginning, was the best way to go.
Oh, I disagree.
You still don't like that they were reincarnated.
Nah.
I felt like they fought so hard to get there, and they finally got their kids back, and now they're leaving their kids.
Exactly. So, yeah. I mean, up until that point, it's fucking fantastic. But I love this movie so much that I'll forgive it.
Mhm.
So there you go.
But not 5.
No, it won't get $5 from me. And that was What Dreams May Come. All right, what do you think? You ready to rate this flick?
Ready? I've walked through painted fields of cinematic heaven and braved the fiery depths of movie hell. Just be prepared for this review. Let's do this before I get reincarnated as a reputable movie critic.
All right, there you go. You get to go first, Guy.
I guess it kind of was my movie, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Before I do, Don, you want to guess my rating on this one?
You were going to give What Dreams May Come 4.75 fucks.
Final answer?
Final answer.
I have stated this before, but again, this is one of my favorite Robin Williams movies. It's visually stunning. It's emotionally charged. I love the fact that it's all about the power of love and connecting heaven and earth. It's heartbreaking. It's uplifting. It's beautifully balanced with its theme of loss, redemption, and the enduring strength of human connections. Robin Williams, he's phenomenal as Chris. He brings both substance and warmth to the role. He navigates unbelievable loss, heartbreak, and commitment in this incredibly moving movie. And Annabella as Annie, she's equally captivating. Her performance captures the raw despair and just the grieving of a mother who's lost everything. Her journey is so heartbreaking, but at the same time, really impactful. Cuba Gooding Jr. as Albert brings an energetic presence to his afterlife character. While his enthusiasm occasionally feels a bit over the top to me, compared to how Ian was portrayed in this movie, and is a bit distracting from the deeper tones of the movie, his chemistry with Williams helps to ground the narrative. And let's not forget Ming the Merciless, Max von Sydow, who, despite his limited screen time, delivers a powerful performance as the tracker. It's the visual effects that really stand out in this movie. I love how they created this painted heaven where everything really felt like paint. The water, and all the elements, it didn't look like a CGI or anything like that. It looked like what you expect to be inside of a painting. And the themes of creativity and connection, just the artistic direction alone, makes this movie unforgettable for me. We mentioned earlier the musical score and how it connects to the emotional depth of the story. For me, again, I usually don't connect really heavily to a musical score unless it's a Marvel movie or a Star Wars movie or Indiana Jones or even Jaws. Those are the movies I remember the music. This movie, the music really touched me. What Dreams May Come is a bold, beautiful film that dares to explore life, death, and the lengths that love will go to. While it's not perfect, it definitely tears into your heart. It's a visually and emotionally rewarding experience, and it lingers long after the credits rolls. It's one of those movies that you feel like you need to talk about, that you need to share with someone. And it's one of those movies I can go back and rewatch just about any time, unless I'm already in a bad mood and I don't want to have to go through a box of Kleenex. It's for those reasons I'm giving What Dreams May Come 4.75 fucks.
Bam, nailed it.
You go next.
What Dreams May Come is one of my favorite Robin Williams movies. We've been kind of gushing about it all night. The visuals, the score, the cast, all of it is borderline perfect. The only reason why it's not perfect for me is I don't like the whole reincarnation bit at the end. I think it's just a wee bit too much. I think the four of them should have just lived in heaven happily ever after. So therefore, I am giving What Dreams May Come 4.75 fucks. And we just got a special bulletin from the professor. He is giving What Dreams May Come 2 fucks.
We're going to have to ask him on a future show why 2 fucks.
Yeah, I don't care.
I need to hear from him why.
He just didn't. I'll tell you why. He didn't like it. It was too heavy for him. So there you go. With 2 fucks from the professor, 4.75 fucks from you and me, that gives What Dreams May Come an average of 3.8 fucks, which now ties it in the 15th spot with True Lies, Step Brothers, Inglourious Bastards, Super 8, Silver Linings Playbook, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Rambo First Blood Part 2, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and Die Hard 2, Die Harder. It is slightly better than Fight Club, Cabin in the Woods, Fallen, Hell or High Water, and The Usual Suspects. It is slightly worse than The Suicide Squad, Moonrise Kingdom, The Descent, Arrival, and The Nightmare Before Christmas. So there you have it.
Can I just throw in a fuck that guy?
You can do whatever you want. This is your heaven.
Okay.
And that is going to wrap it up for this episode of Three Guys in a Flick. If you would like to know which movie we're going to be reviewing next, please check out the website. Speaking of which, hey, John, where can they find us?
They can find us at threeguysinaflick.com, where we go ahead and post our show notes. We post all of our podcasts, anything else we feel like throwing there. There's also a form on there where you can submit a movie you would like to go in the helmet and have us review next. You can also find us at all of social media, as well as anywhere that hosts podcasts. And while you're listening to us, please go ahead and leave us a comment. Give us 5 stars. We'd love to get our rating up. We'd also love for you to go ahead and leave a comment. And even if you want to, you can leave a comment of a movie you would again like us to review next.
All right. I just want to thank anybody who listens and who has suggested a movie. If you keep listening, we'll keep recording. For 3 Guys in a Flick, I'm Don.
I'm John.
And hey, thanks for listening.
3 guys with some rights, yeah, dive into the flicks. We're here for the real talk, no time for the tricks. Don as the captain, steering us right. Kid drops now to shedding light. John with the comics, bringing the hype. From the good, the bad, to the absurd. We break it down, make sure you heard. Passion for the screen, we ride or die about movies. You know, we always give a fuck, no lies.
Want me to try it?
Well, you think you can do it better than me?
Better than that.
Mhm.
I got a little moist on that one.
No, you didn't. You're just saying that now. Music by Michael Carmen. And it stars.
There's no R.
on Robin Williams' IMDb page, one of his quotes is, "Cocaine is God's way of telling you you make too much money."
So if our heavens are the thing that we love the most, would yours just be all orange and blue?
That's a good question. Probably.
Hmm.
I mean, not after this weekend, but, ask me again in a couple weeks. What would yours be?
Boobies.
Well, at least you're honest.
Or comic books.
How about comic books about boobies? All right. What do you got?
I actually have 2.
Well, I have 2, including the one that you had, because the one that you have is kind of a no-brainer.
Which is, you just take the same name, What Dreams May Come, but spell it C-U-M.
Yep, that's what I had. And ironically enough, that's what the professor had.
Yeah.
So what's the other one?
The other one I had is Wet Dreams Make Me Come.
Oh, see, that's a little bit more original. I have What Queens May Come, C-U-M, or C-O-C-O-M-E, take your choice, or What Sluts May Come,
Okay.
or Wet Sluts May Come.
Wet Sluts May Come. Yeah.
Yeah, not too bad, right?
No, that's not bad at all. I'd watch just about all of those.
Yeah, probably. Me too. Me too.
In fact, I probably have.
Yeah, and I wonder if the scenes are them in the paint,
That would be interesting.
right? And
Just
then
sloshing around.
yeah, and it goes from animation to real life to animation to real life. You know what, buddy? I think we're in the wrong business.
Yeah, I agree.
I think we should create some AI movies.
Okay, we're going to use the basement,
Okay.
and I'm going to go get a bunch of plastic sheets.
All right.
And I think we can do this.
Plastic sheets.
Well, just plastic to put down on the floor and the walls,
Oh, right. So we don't get
because it's going to get messy.
so we don't get paint everywhere.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
sick fuck. All right. May all of your days and nights be filled with happiness. All right. Fuck up. Good night.
As 3 guys in a flick, keep the passion alive. Fuck